Summers and enjoy. Derek, there you go, bud.
Okay, thank you, Scott. We'll just get right into it. Technical zone and sideline management. It's going to be our first bit of this webinar. We're going to try to keep on time to an hour. No promises, but we will try. So we'll start out with TZ management, and then we'll do a bit of basic ARing. Like you said, if you have any questions, go ahead and get into the chat. I need to get access to that. Stand by. There we go. So really important that all the referees involved know the laws. I have no doubt that they all did. But you see there in that scenario, when a team tries to pull a fast one, that's when you might have some problems. So introduction to the technical zone management. As you can read here, objective of the match officials in the technical zone to service both teams and to manage all aspects of replacements and substitutions in accordance with the TZ protocol, ensuring compliance with the laws of the game. I'm not going to read the second one. Like we said, you need to know the law, the protocol itself, and have the interpersonal skills to manage the two teams during a match. That's probably the most important part of that whole thing, wouldn't you say, Scott?
Sure.
I mean, you're going to have to work with these people for at least an hour and a half. It's never a good thing if you're not having a good relationship with, say the team manager or whoever's handing the sub cards in. Probably a good idea to introduce yourself at the beginning of the match and things like that. So we'll go over technical zone protocols, personnel required, the roles, variations that we might see in Texas, and then some intangibles, like we said, some of those interpersonal skills. Why is that not switching on me? So yeah, functional roles, the technical zone. So we want to ensure there's proper personnel and proper team movements in and out of the field, substitutions, player movements, swiftly on and off the pitch, sub cards. There's a written record at the end of the match. Obviously, score and timekeeping are important as well. Time of match, time of bin, blood subs, etc. All these things in a perfect environment is what you're going to have. Specific roles for each job. Obviously, we don't always have that. So we'll look here real quick, just kind of the broad sense of all the rules and regulations that we have with USA. Now, this might vary from competition to competition. In the MLR, we had a different setup. If you do an international, this might have different standards. As you can see, there's asterisks around this list. Each competition might vary. The match commissioner who you meet with probably the day before or a couple hours before kickoff, if you're working a test match, we'll go over all the protocols. So just a couple that really stand out. No more than 2 coaches in the technical zone. Coaches may not cross into the other team's technical zone. All of the water carriers and all the players are away from the bench area, are away from the technical zone area on their own specific bench behind another set of ropes. Medical personnel, as you can see, 1 medical personnel. It's in the middle column. 1 medical personnel per team is allowed on the field. So don't try to write this down all at once. We'll send this all out to you. So just going over a few things. Water carriers should not be in the technical zone. As we said, they're going to be in the bench area. And then important on that last column, teams must warm up in the end they are attacking, not the end they are defending. Players must wear a contrasting jersey or turn their shirt inside out. Not a whole lot of teams in this country usually don't have bibs, so do the best you can. As you can see, the ropes and things like that. We'll have the full picture of the field here in a second. So this is just a close-up shot, your actual technical zone. As you can see, clearly defined, kind of the meters and whatnot, and then an administrative area. This is on a good day. Primary personnel, like we said, on a good day, sideline manager. They control the whole sideline, make sure everyone's in their specific areas. If you're the technical zone manager, they're basically the sideline manager is essentially your boss. telling you kind of what needs to be done. Water carriers in the wrong areas or no balls and in goal, stuff like that. Technical zone manager is essentially your number 4. They're typically the person who's communicating with the referee through the comms or some other way, and they're the point of contact for the subcontrollers. And then, as you see here, subcontrollers number 5s and number 6. You're basically managing the team sideline. They're the ones that hand you the card, and then you go to the technical zone manager when they're ready for a sub. Additional personnel, your manual recorder. They're the ones who score player movements, as you can see there, all the paperwork. And then we have a timekeeper who handles all the time, match time, sin bin, blood bin, HIA. Pretty straightforward. Now here's your technical zone on a good day. Your primary setup, as you can see here, 2 coaches in each box, 2 water carriers clearly defined with bibs. And then we have a technical zone manager, our 2 sub-controllers, recorder, timekeeper. Those guys are on a table usually, and then our sideline manager is overseeing that. Sometimes you'll see a technical zone manager and the sideline manager might be the same person. This is our setup kind of usually with what we have in MLR or what typically we'll see in Texas for a regular match. We might not even have a match recorder sometimes, but technical zone manager, you're pretty much managing the whole sideline. You're taking subs from both teams, communicating with them, making sure everyone's in the box. Your match recorder could assist you on that, but essentially it is your job to handle all of that, and you're also communicating with the referee. Other alternatives, you could have a match recorder, 1 person writing, and then we could have 2 sub-controllers. Either one of them has a comms to the referee or 2 have a comms. So if you have three personnel kind of set up where 1 person's writing, 1 team for each sideline to kind of manage their area, and then you can either have both guys with radios communicating with the referee or just one. And then oftentimes we'll just have 1 person, TZM, they're doing the whole thing, where you're trying to not really worrying about the written record, right? I mean, you're pretty much not worrying about the written record. You're just trying to kind of keep the sub cards, kind of keep a running timeline. You'll probably be keeping score as well. I've done this several times. It is a lot of work when you're trying to write things down and control the subs, especially kind of in the second half. Minute 60 or whatever, when players start to move in and out more frequently. In a sevens game, it can be busy throughout. So just really important to be on top of things as a TZM. And this is kind of when it becomes most important that before the game, you have clearly defined areas where teams know where they can be in and out of. Just makes your job a lot easier because, if you're by yourself, you're pretty much, you're pretty much on your own. In terms of sideline management. I mean, the referees have a job to do, and it's your job to police the sidelines. You don't really want to involve the on-field officials too much with your problems. So, I mean, they really are. Would you say so? I mean, they pretty much are your problems. Like, this is your sideline. You need to manage. A lot of times, you have to get the referee involved. It's not the greatest thing in the world. You're going to get a nice scowl from the center referee. So we'll move on. Here's your whole picture of the whole field. As we said, each team can have a medic, 1 on each sideline. So you essentially could have 4 medics roaming the sideline as well. 2 water carriers each, as we said. They're in the bench area. Those are typically players, as we mentioned in the first overview. But you might have situations where it's other players for the team and stuff like that. So, yeah, this is just kind of some variations how it might look. So we don't really have an admin area. We have a technical zone here. This is just kind of a setup with 2 ropes, clear technical zone. This will do in Texas, I would say. Nothing wrong with that. This is kind of what you'll see most places around the country. If we do have ropes, our Our requirements in Texas now are technical zones. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every game is required to have technical zones, 5 meter ropes, and spectators on the opposite side of
Yeah.
the teams.
Yeah. Yeah. We always say we want to get the game off as much as we can. If you can do it with the 2 rope barrier, then we say all teams behind the ropes, everyone's behind the ropes, and then report that to Scott, I would say, over the weekend.
Yeah, and in your match report, if there is not technical zone set up or ropes, there's an area in your report to make note of that, and it's really important that at the beginning of the season that we set a good standard, and we encourage teams to comply with what is now USA Rugby and TRU protocols for the sideline. So before we move on, if anyone has questions about setting up a technical zone, the question box is now working for us. So feel free to type in your question, and we will do our best to answer those. So Aaron Jameson's got a good question. How should the TZM rather handle a cameraman located in an area other than with the spectators? So ideally, the cameraman is going to want to set up his camera somewhere in the middle of the field in the admin zone, and I guess as long as they are not yelling at the match officials, I'm happy to have them in that area.
Yeah. Typically for a match that has a sideline camera and stuff like that, you would have protocols with the match commissioner, and some fields would have defined lines like a blue line 2 or 3 meters off the touch line. That's like the cameraman line, stuff like that. But um, camera guys usually do wander, and they sometimes get in the way. An AR might have issues and stuff like that. It's really important that the sideline manager get involved, or the technical zone manager. If the on-field officiating team is having issues with a cameraman, that on-field team needs to worry about the game. If they have issues with the cameraman, they need to bring that to the technical zone or the sideline manager's attention, and they can handle that out. Aside from a quiet word with that camera guy to get out of the way, do what you can.
Another question's come in from Kat Roche. What's an appropriate reason to involve a referee as a TZM?
If what do we say? Ask, tell, penalize, bin. That's your usual referee protocol. If you're a technical zone manager and you're having major problems with the sideline. We see this in other sports. Rugby's no stranger to it, but you've exercised all your options with a coach or a manager or something like that, and this guy's got to go. This guy's either got to calm down or he's got to go. So we're at the point where you're talking to this manager or whatever. Say if you don't relax or you don't calm down, I'm going to get the referee involved and you're gonna be gone. So that's really your last resort. This is what we talk about, kind of that interpersonal skills with this manager or whatnot. And you got to understand what they're going through. Maybe they're not happy with the TZ setup. Maybe you guys have varied from the normal protocol. But push comes to shove. If the guy's got to go, the guy's got to go. So at an appropriate time, say a stoppage, a scrum, or something like that, technical zone manager gets the referee involved, brings him over, and it's really like a final warning. Either you shape up. The referee would say to the manager, you either shape up, nothing more out of you, or if we get another incident, you're gone. Pretty simple as that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Basically, if you're the TZM and you can't resolve an issue, that's when you're going to call the referee in, either for just a technical law issue or maybe a personnel referee abuse type issue.
Yeah.
Use common sense, and it's always good to try honey before we use the vinegar. Okay, moving on. Hopefully that answers your question for you, Kat. Moving on with Doug Corrigan. He's asked a question about drones. The USA Rugby Laws Committee have talked about that, and they are drafting up a proposal about drones. There is some sort of liability issues around a drone dropping out of the sky and hitting someone on the noggin. I find them highly annoying. Personally, they're like a giant mosquito flying around. But as of today, there is no USA protocols around drones. I do not believe there is any from the TRU either. So again, if it's safe, we're going to play rugby. If the guy's coming in and hanging one over the scrum while you're trying to set it, maybe you can have a talk to him. Again, Aaron Jameson has asked stadiums, for example, or the cameraman stands that are elevated. Look, if there's a steel structure, if they have a dare stand, it would have to be at least 5 meters back from the sideline. That would be my request. That if it's some sort of structure that is potentially dangerous to a player that runs into it, then we want them behind the rope. And they can also be, still at the midfield, but behind the rope. Or we could send them off to the, obviously to a grandstand or a stadium, and there is one to set up there. Okay. Aussie has a question. Any suggestions for managing zones as a solo ref at a local level match? How about as a team of 3 at a local match?
Yeah. I would say really it starts from the beginning. So it starts from when you get to the pitch. If you're making clear guidelines, there's clearly defined technical zone. There's no issue around where they need to actually stand. You've discussed it with the coaches. They're aware that you guys are alone. That's when it's most important to have ropes involved for the team. So all the teams are behind. We should only have 4 personnel essentially over the ropes. So two coaches for each team. We might have one, if it's a local match, we'll probably have like one medic for the whole game. So we're talking about 5 people. It's really just a matter of you working with them at the beginning, and they know that you're aware of the situation and they need to stay behind. So, a lot of times you'll start a game, say if you're at a tournament, you get about 30 players or, 16 players on the other side of the ropes, all the replacements. No one's in where they need to be. Before you kick off that match, you walk over to that sideline, ask everyone to get behind the ropes. Coaches are in their tech area, and you just continue on. That's really all you can do. If it's a team of 3, the ARs can assist at that. We have clearly marked out technical zones in the TRU, so shouldn't be that big of a deal. 2 weeks ago we were in Aspen dealing with players all up and down the ropes, and eventually you get to the point where the referees on the field have to still ref the game. So you got to do what you got to do to avoid it. But hopefully we don't really have too many situations like that in Texas. Shouldn't be.
Right now, most teams are fairly compliant with zones. But as you said, Dee, I think if you set it up before the match, have a talk to the coaching staff. If they don't have technical zones, they can be fashioned out of cones, their training cones, kit bags, or you name it. It's just really defining an area for them. If as long as they're not yelling and hurling abuse into the field. It's something that we can also deal with our reporting at the end of the match, and we can report that they were outside their technical zones, and then it will become a TRU issue. So, okay, I think that was the last question about technical zones. We will go over technical zone stuff in our local meetings this week and go through some scenarios and do some role playing there. So we'll carry on.
Yeah, just a couple things to summarize that, where we have. Is it not on my computer anymore?
No, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like we said, know the law. Know the difference between a replacement and a substitute. When players can and cannot rejoin the match, and then we have some 7s and U19 variations. We're not going to go over that right now. We'll do that on our regional meetings. Expect some sort of law a lot of questions around those couple of things. And then, we just have our basic subcard on and off form that we have from Texas.
I'm going to switch you over to present,
Yep.
so then you can use your computer. Give me 2 secs. So we're just going to switch computers here, peeps. So hopefully it's a smooth transition. And we go there.
Sorry. Just your standard card, how the team might fill it out. If I can do this without screwing it up. Team official, and then making sure it's filled in, making sure everything's filled in if we're in a match like that. Pretty standard. Important thing is really that they indicate the reason. A lot of times you'll just be handed a card with a number, with 2 numbers, and then that's it. It's really important that they fill the whole thing out. What am I talking? But specifically for technical zone purposes, you need to know what the reason of the injury was in case something happens later in the game, whether or not they can or can't rejoin the match. Audio should be back. Yeah, and then our player on and off form, pretty standard. We might go to something like that. Reason, yellow card, 15, and then, yeah. So pretty easy. Straightforward. And then we have the score. We're not going to do all of that. Yeah, cool. Do we have any questions from the data keeping section, I guess, of the fun, the stat dork section of Technical Zone?
And we will put a copy of all those sheets, the replacement, sub-replacement cards, etc., on our website and Facebook page, so you can download them. And if you want to, if you're a Technical Zone manager, you can print those off and have them to use. So they'll be there for you.
Yeah. Good to go. All right, intro to refereeing. We'll just start this off. Go over kind of roles and responsibilities, introduction to positioning, what your job is and what it is not. Real basic, pretty basic information here, just some kind of where to stand and a few priorities. But we're going to look at a number of clips here rather than just talk about some stuff. So kind of a little start off again, similar to what we had at the first introduction clip.
Christian Day has to gather it on the bounce.
Does that need to be? Screen sharing is now paused.
And just allow defenders to drift on 5 attackers. Awful by Northampton, but it was a 3-man overlap.
It is a bit choppy.
Is it playing?
It is choppy now.
Seemed easier.
If you can't, all right. If you can't view the clips, we will send this presentation out later. So
They've all run across the field and just allowed 2 defenders to drift on 5 attackers. Awful by Northampton, but it was a 3-man overlap.
yeah, those aren't very
Seemed
good.
easier not to score. They've still got chances. They've still got possession, and now they have the advantage. Francis, again,
2 advantages, one there.
maybe the simpler option would have been the better one. Francis is trying to get the ball, maybe a little bit over enthusiastically. He's now met with the Clermont front row. He's lost his head a little bit. Malander into the corner in the meantime. So Tom Stevenson will come on in the centres for Northampton, and they've gathered it in from the line out, and they are pressing. This is overdue. Long overdue.
Yeah, and then the shit hits the fan. So, kind of watching this clip, wondering what are we? This is about assistant refereeing. Why are we even talking about this? Well, if you saw the clip at the beginning, your first job is touch. And if you watch the clip at the beginning, this Northampton player's foot is on the line. So, foot is on the line. He's out. Should be a Claremont line out. They clear their lines. Game moves on, whatever. So rather than do your original job, which is touch, we miss that. Turns into this, spirals out of control. We have a fight. So, like we said, you want to do your job. So your first priority is, as we've always said, as an AR, is touch. Touch, kicks a goal, and foul play. So we'll have touch loss change. Touch loss change within the last, 18 months. So we'll just review this real quick, as you can read it here. So you can't force touch. And if you are in play, the ball leaves the field, the plane of touch, you can bring it back in as long as you don't touch the ground. Things like, that's just pretty basic. Not the easiest way to explain that. But so a couple of clips here.
It's not necessarily considered a yellow
Players
card.
in play, jumps from the field of play, throws the ball back in. This is pre-law change. This is from the World Cup. So this scenario now, as you can see here, is play on.
He's in the air. The TMO doesn't clear things up, and so I agree with the penalty.
Another touch decision here.
Good territory.
Nice little pink jersey there.
So it works in their favor, but I think some of those emotions, we saw them flare up right at the end of that.
So the difference between these two clips is that the green player steps on the line, then plays the ball, so it is touch. We're not going to replay these just for time. Like we said, we will send all this out. And then our second clip is what we said. You can't force touch anymore. In the past, you were able to be stationary, or you were able to be standing in touch, have a foot on the line, or your full body in touch. And if the ball didn't break the plane, you could catch it, force touch, get your own throw in, or force the ball to be out on the full. No longer can you do that. Here's a couple of clips with that. So he's in touch. Ball's broken the plane. He's caught it. His throw, regardless, straight out on the full.
The coaches who go just it breaks you. You kind of wonder why.
Similar scenario, different outcome.
And hopefully more to come.
So
and he's put in touch when he took that one.
On that play, foot is on the line. The ball is caught, but it doesn't break the plane.
Yeah, that's a change in the law this year. So last year that would have been okay. That would have been deemed that the ball was in touch, but the ball has to cover the plane of touch now. Even though Dave Denton caught it, his foot was on the line.
Exactly what the commentators say right there.
That's a mistake from Dave Denton. Just not
pretty straightforward.
Started really well.
So that's your first priority. It's kicks, or excuse me, touch, kicks a goal and foul play. So again, we have a couple more touch calls here. This one we have a knock on outside the 22, carried back in, kicked out on the full. AR is asleep and a little bit confused. Says, hold on, I think that was carried in. Bring the ball back. Don't get the mark right. Get half points on that play. So that's kind of a thing that we talk about, and we'll talk about this more with our HP group, where everyone's switched on. As an AR, it's not your job. It's not your job to referee the game. We're not out there to ref the breakdown. We're not out there to do the ref's job and ref the scrum for them. We're out there to assist them and to get our main priority. So like we said, your first priority is touch. You got to do that correctly at least. If you can't do that, then what good are you as an AR, honestly, right? I mean, That's a fair point. So as a team of 3, and these are really hard, you have a scenario where 2 ARs lead and trail. One might get the spot of the kick. The other might understand that it was or get that it was carried back in. On this one, they kind of get half points, like we said. Let's keep doing that. Another clip here of touch. So we have a touch call where it's out of the 22. It's carried back in, taken quickly, kicked out on the full. Good example here is the team of 3. See the referee touching his earpiece. They eventually get the right decision. Good outcome there. Everyone's working. So like we said, touch is your main priority.
Now McGee set.
This is another example here of quick throw. A lot of times when an AR, it's really easy for an AR, and same for the referee. Scott, you agree or disagree with this, to switch off when the ball's out of play.
Sure.
It's really important that you stay up to snuff of what's going on. Your job's not over. There's lots of requirements when the ball goes out and balls still play. It's not necessarily dead. So this is when the team of 3 really has to switch on.
The right boot. Great clearing kick from McGee. Well,
So clearance kick. You see the AR come in here. Doesn't have his hand out, indicating that the throws or the lineouts formed. We have a quick throw, and they go in to score.
The arrows, they're shooting straight early.
Kind of a sleeper play. Could have really gone south for the team of 3 if a whistle was blown or if a hand went up or anything like that. Now at Glendale, you do get the benefit of review on video, so a lot of times you do play this out and then look at it later. But if we're in College Station, we're not going to have that luxury. So you've got to pay attention. You got to be on your horse. It's kind of when we talk about where the laws. So 2x2 takes 2 players from each team to form a lineout. To negate the quick throw. In here, between the 15s, or the 5 and the 15. So here we have 2, play still good, it's a quick throw. So that's your overview of touch. We've got a couple of diagrams we'll go through here. This is just your main kick at goal or conversion, kind of your general where we would like you to stand. So the front AR, as you can see here, is at the post. Your back AR is over the dead ball line. Now, again, these are for, international level goalposts that are pretty high. If we're in, we're doing, Cowtown or something, I don't know if that exists anymore, but if the posts are up and the posts are made of trees and stuff like that, you might have to get a little bit closer as an AR team. So maybe not as strict, but if the posts are regulation, this is what we generally want to see. Front AR at that front post, guys, further AR is at the back. Usually they both end up in line. So that front AR's responsibility is making sure it crosses that crossbar. And then the far AR is kind of trailing the ball. So in an ideal situation, both ARs would be moving, end up in line. There's a communication, either a look or a verbal yes. Both flags go up as they run out of the in goal. Typically try to get to the 5-meter line. If you remember to do that, that's good practice. And then race each other back to the halfway or have a light jog, however you feel like it. Just a quick example. I know it's silly, but this is the basics of ARing, and it's important to kind of just look at it.
And they're kicking on.
So kick a goal, front ARs there, moving with the ball. There's a confirmation, both flags go up, and they run forward. Sounds simple, but you'd be surprised how often that gets done incorrectly, even at the highest level. I mean, you've seen it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Try for his country.
Now, touch kicks a goal. Our third priority is an AR's foul play. Just providing assistance and backup for the referee, either their back's turned or maybe they just want a second opinion. Really just gives the look or the impression that the team of three is working together. So if we have an incidence of foul play, we want the flag out immediately. This is serious foul play. Flag out. Continue your duties. We're not going to debate this penalty, whether it is or not a penalty. I don't know. You can have your own opinion about it. But AR here has his flag out, continuing with his duties. Ball goes into touch. Time's off. AR and referee have a little conversation, come to their decision.
James, unlucky. James.
So you see him here having their little conversation. Okay, what did you think? Okay, I thought it was a tip tackle. Where's the mark? And then we'll go from there. So it's pretty standard. Again, this is your basic introduction to it. We want to have that flag out, continue with your duties. Don't just stand there. A lot of times you'll see ARs just kind of plant themselves on that mark and not move. It's okay to kind of take a mental note of where the mark was, but you want to continue on because your first priority is still, again, touch. So kickoffs. We saw the kickoff clip earlier. This is just kind of basic positioning. Your front AR, near AR to the forwards would be on the 10-meter line. Far AR typically is trailing at the 22. If you look at that clip from the Scotland-Canada match, you see both ARs are running with the teams from the halfway line. That kind of varies from referee to referee. So the referee might give you specific instructions that either a focus area that they want to have looked at. But yeah, if you go back to this is your standard cookie cutter positioning. But like we said, and with a few other set pieces, that positioning might vary. What do you think?
Yeah, I like this because you basically have your team of three and you're taking care of the three main lines on the field. You've got the halfway line, the centre referee can make sure everyone's on side. The forwards, the AR marking the forwards, they can make sure the ball travels 10. Yeah. And then the 22 is the third line that needs to be looked at so we can adjudicate touch correctly if it's kicked back out.
Yeah. So, yeah, pretty standard. Most of the time, 9 times out of 10, you'll probably stand there. There's no need to switch it up. So, drop out, a couple of variations of drop out. It's not black and white. This doesn't have to be that way, but typically both ARs would be at the 22, kind of checking the kicking team. You could even vary it where one AR is maybe further downfield and another AR is checking that, just to have somebody kind of downfield to watch the kick or watch the receiver of the kick. And again, it varies from referee to referee. I can't say I've ever given ARs instructions about where to stand on a 22 drop. It's just kind of where you want, but again, you can't go wrong with either that or that. So
yeah, it seems that there was a little bit of a reaction to some of the in front of the kicker from restarts last year, and World Rugby sort of reacted by saying, "Hey, let's just get our ARs in line." A lot of this will be based on your personal fitness. If you're a fit and referee and you can run up and down the field all day, then why not? There's no reason to not be at the 22 and follow the ball up. However, if you've got a bad knee and you're a neoprene referee, then maybe you give yourself a bit of a lead up to the 50. So no wrong or right on this one. Yeah. And I would go base my positioning off what the centre referees asked from me on the day. Yep. Good.
Yeah, and then we kind of similar here. We got scrum. There's a couple of ways to do it. Again, this isn't necessarily, gospel. It doesn't have to be this way, but it can be. So typically a referee might say, okay, both of you go right on the scrum. So defending side ARs marking the 5. Can't really tell who has the ball. We're going to the right here. So far side AR, open side AR would have the attack. It is still in law that both teams need to be 5 meters back from the scrum. However, I mean, how many times have you ever called an attacking team for being within the 5? Probably never, but I have seen it, but it's very rare. So another variation is to just have both ARs on the defending side. So typically, I mean, you're getting all your areas covered that are needed. I mean, it's really not that big a deal to have the attacking team covered, but again, that would vary from referee to referee. Some guys might be very specific. Some guys might, some referees might tell you, look, one of you just get the offside line. One of you might be in line with me. Sometimes during a scrum, the referee might ask him or her to, his or her AR to get in line if, say, the scrum's nearest to the touch line. And as you can see on this diagram, the scrum's nearest to in goal as well. So it's always a good idea to kind of have an AR in this general area in case the ball pops out on the side or some crazy shit happens in this corner and there might be a try being scored. So always a good idea to kind of be in this general position. If you're near to in goal or near to the touch line, like we said, the AR might have their own preference as to what they want you to do. We're not going to go over protocol necessarily of communication in that yet. We'll wait and save that for later. Here's a quick little good practice from our fearless leader, Butch. How do you say that?
You in Swanda?
There we go. So the videos might be a little choppy. Butch is trying to get himself in a good position where he can see everything he needs to see. He's pretty active. You could say maybe not be as active, but nothing wrong with being there. Hands on the button, ready to call something in if he needs to. That's kind of what we want. That's a really good example of kind of what it needs to look like if you're going to provide support for your referee. Again, just get yourself in a position where you can see what you need to see and be ready to make a call. In that clip, he has a radio, so his hand's on the button. He's ready to go. In a different match without comms, you'll have some other setup. You and your referee will go over some kind of communication protocol, either hand signals or verbal or what have you. Pretty standard line out there. I mean, there's really no deviation from this, I would say. Near ARs on the tunnel, they might step to the side to get a better view. If you're a short AR and you have a big, huge hooker in front of you or forward you can't see, you might step to the side so you can see it better. It's not necessarily required that you keep the flag up the whole time. It's up to you. But that far AR is always going to have the backs and making sure everyone's on side. Little tip, it's always good to be friendly with the wingers on your side because they're the ones that are nearest to you and are going to help you get the teams back. So sometimes you might step in, you might step like on the 15-meter line to get their attention. And once they're back, then it's all good. If you have that good relationship with the winger or one of the backs or the fly half's probably going to be looking at you most of the time. If they know you're there, then you shouldn't have a problem. If you're having a problem getting players back 10, would look at that. So here's our basic positioning that we want for a ruck or maul. Both ARs, as you can see here, getting to the last foot. This takes a lot of work. When you say, Scott, it takes a lot of work for an AR to kind of get in this position. But we want both ARs to kind of work to get to that back foot of the defending off sideline and help the referee with offside. Again, with comms, it's easy to do it. Without comms, there's different protocols that referees might have. We'll go over that later. But your general positioning for breakdown is you're working really hard to get up and down that touch line, to get to the last foot, checking offside, and then getting back into a leading and trail position. This is just kind of an example of what we talk about with offside. So if we're going to call offside, we want players who never reach this offside line. So if we got defenders that maybe made it here and just never made it back. If we have guys, we have players that were here that made it all the way onside, and say it's a shooter, say it's a timing issue between the scrum half and the defender, we typically want to leave those to the referee, because as you'll see on this clip, most of the time we get it wrong. On this clip, it's not an AR call, it's a referee call, but it's so hard sometimes, especially at the higher level, to get these calls right, these timing plays right or wrong. So we want to leave all AR decisions for offside, go with players that are never onside. So when we see this clip, players are retreating, it's typically on a breakaway. The 9 was onside. It's a shooter play. So as the referee turns, sees the player about 5 meters in front, thinks, oh, he has to be offside, then gives the penalty. So you can see why it's not a good idea to really judge shooter calls. Is everyone, I would assume everyone's kind of comfortable with that term, the shooter, whatever we want to call it.
Yeah, it's a defender that rushes out of the line.
Yeah.
Yeah,
pretty straightforward. We're going to leave that to the referee, let them make that mistake, as you can see here, and not have the ARs be involved, because it's just so hard. You're looking at, when you're talking about getting that call correct, you're looking at the player who's going to be offside and also timing it with the 9, and it's just, it's almost impossible, I would say. Other things a referee might assist on in a breakdown, say the referee is shielded, so the ARs on the near touch line, they might help them with something like hands in. So this would be a perfect example. So clear hands in, clip cuts off, but AR's in position to make the call, either a yellow, or whatever common, whatever terms you and the referee have talked about. So in this scenario, it would probably be yellow. Referee would blow the whistle, then they give an explanation, ruck hands in. Pretty simple, straightforward, good teamwork here. Penalties and free kicks, again, basic positioning, marking that 10, both sides, getting there as quickly as possible, especially in a sevens match where players are going to take quick taps, or basically any D2 or D3 in Texas, no matter what part of the field. Just marking that 10, that's your first priority. Again, same thing, you kind of want to make sure players do make it to the 10. A lot of times players will take it quick, and if they're smothered immediately in this area, easy decision. Sometimes if you get to like 8.5 or 9 meters, it makes things a little bit more difficult. But we want to at least help the referee to get that 10 meters marked and then go from there. Scenario here with a penalty kick where it's a kick for the corner. So both ARs would immediately mark the 10. You realize they're kicking for the corner, so it's a good idea to have that nearest AR on the corner flag. So Scott, can you just say, give your thoughts on why we want the referee on the corner flag?
Yeah, it's really so you can make a good call on whether the ball has gone into touch or has it gone touch and goal. If you're standing at the corner flag and it's a 50-50 call, it gives you a lot more credibility of your position there, rather than if you're in motion to try to get there. So get to the corner flag, and then it gives you a lot of credibility when you make that call. Yeah,
it's just an easy sell if you're in position. If you're not in position, then you're opening yourself up to kind of debate whether it was or whether it wasn't. Never a good feeling, been there several times. Just a real basic, we have a couple of slides left. We're just about out of time. A couple of slides here. This is just kind of general lead and trail. So lead and trail plays kind of come into this, quadrant, however you want to call it, this side of the field. Nearest AR, who was probably trailing at the time, is now running with play. And then the far AR either runs backwards to go into a trail position or just kind of checks up and lets play go ahead of them. As you can see here, divide the field along half length to determine lead and trail.
Yeah, the trailing AR in this pitch is a little bit far behind play, so
yeah.
you'd probably want to be somewhere just inside the 22 in this scenario. But just know that in this situation, we're not wanting you to be 30 meters behind play.
It's a bit far. It's a bit far. And the AR is about 20 meters tall, so yeah.
Not to scale.
So pretty easy lead and trail. Good clip here, kind of a scenario about ruck and lead and trail, and then also with corner flag position. Nice little pink jersey action. We have loose ball. Referee's in position. Team of three's in position.
Did he get it down legally? That's the question.
I think they're going to go back to see if there was a knock on. Ground is good. Try award. It says Scott Green.
So you hear the conversation between the ref and the AR. Clear grounding.
To overturn the
AR,
call.
as you see here, checks up, gives himself a good picture,
These are the same
gets
angles
low,
that the TMO's
sees the
getting.
grounding,
There's
and then we
they
go from
are.
there. So, yeah, I mean, we'll go back to this slide. So any kind of play that you get into the corner, as we said, your first priority is touch. So the best way I've always thought to judge the touch line is to be on the touch line and give yourself some space. It's really hard when you're looking directly down to give a grounding decision, wouldn't you say? I mean, you just want to give yourself a bit of room, either directly on the touch line or maybe slightly outside the field of play if they go into goal, so the corner flag's not obstructing you, but give yourself a good picture so you can judge the touch. So that's pretty much it. That's our summary right now. If we have any questions, go ahead and chat those in. We're pretty much right on schedule. First question David here has, is there a flag signal between touch and goal? No.
No. It's a touch. No. As a AR, you're just going to put your flag up.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the same signal.
Yeah, same signal. Only difference really, dead ball. Dead ball signal would be across their body, horizontal, but not on kicks at goal. So yeah, just going over your summary, or just remember your priorities. It's the same with being a technical zone manager. You need to know your laws. It's important to know the touch laws because they have changed and things are getting a little bit more complicated. But I mean, I would say they have simplified all the touch laws. So knowing your laws, getting yourself in a good position, especially on set pieces, we'll work later to kind of talk about some of the open field positioning as plays going. Because lead and trail, sometimes you might be leading, you might be doing your job, and you're leading, but you're not really in a position to assist, or vice versa with the trail. So as long as you start out where you kind of where you need to be on these diagrams, you'll put yourself in a good position as play goes on. The eyes are a little bit different than the body, but as long as we put the body in the right spot to start off with, then we'll be okay. We'll get into kind of some of that stuff about what ARs should and should not be looking at, and how ARs don't do themselves any favors by watching the referee or watching the game from a referee perspective and not an AR perspective. Been there several times as an AR where something happens right in front of you and you miss it, but it's easy to do that if you're not really sure where you're looking at. But yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it all up.
Yeah, it sure does. Just before we get off, a little bit of housekeeping. Make sure you have your Who's the Ref availability calendar updated. There's lots of games going out at the moment, so let's make sure if you are available to referee and you want to referee, that you have your calendar updated. You are SIP registered, and that's completed. We will be postponing the referee meeting tomorrow night in the north until next month, until we get our numbers up in the north. We'll be in Houston on Wednesday to do some more in-depth work around the tech zone and ARing, and in Austin on Thursday. So bring your questions. If you are involved with the rugby team and want to bring some players or parents along, they are more than welcome to attend these meetings and would be more than happy to share some info and answer questions around the tech zone, sub-laws, and intro to ARing if you want to get involved. So thanks for attending, and thanks, Steve, for hosting, and we will catch you on the flip side.